This video contains spoilers for all of Infinity Train. If you want to watch this cartoon on your own accord, then please do so and come back to this video. Otherwise, thank you and enjoy.
In case y'all didn't know, I'm not a big TV enthusiast. Surprising, I know. In fact, back in the day, I loved watching television, particularly cartoons like SpongeBob, Fairly OddParents, Ed, Edd n Eddy, and Chowder, to name a few. But starting in the 2000s, channels like Disney and Nickelodeon began churning out a lot of live-action sitcoms. There are some classics here and there like Drake and Josh, iCarly, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Hannah Montana, but starting especially in the early 2010s, these sitcoms began to grow and grow into an ongoing trend. A trend that significantly continues to this day, and left barely any room for cartoons for me to watch. Even with the ongoing airing of such revolutionary shows as Steven Universe, Clarence, Adventure Time, and The Loud House, there's never been one single cartoon amidst the swarm of family sitcoms that has ever convinced me to come back to television. That would all change one day with the airing of a new show called Infinity Train. Based on a short created by Owen Dennis, Infinity Train is a 5-night limited series cartoon that aired on Cartoon Network between August 10th and August 15th of 2019. I haven't sat down and watched some cartoons in, no joke, 2 years. 2 years! It wouldn't be until the creation of this show that I would legitimately get off my computer and watch some cartoons, and boy oh boy, this show is a wild ride. I've been wanting to make a video on Infinity Train since, no joke, September 2019, 1 month after the show aired. But now that this year celebrates 1 year of Infinity Train, I figured it would be a good time to look back at the entire series in a 1-year retrospective, to see if the show holds up well into the next decade. I was initially going to make this into 2 separate videos, but instead I'm going to mix the 2 reviews together into one video. Now for this, I will be looking at both seasons Book 1 and Book 2, and since I'm looking at a cartoon instead of a video game, I'm going to structure this video rather differently. I will be limiting my excavation into the contents from 5 sections to about 4. With all that out of the way, I want to know, does Infinity Train hold up on its rails today? Should you watch the show? Climb aboard and let's find out. This is a 1-year retrospective of Infinity Train. Chapter 1. Peeling Back the Layers. The story of Infinity Train revolves around a girl named Tulip Olsen, a nerdy girl with a passion for game design and onion eating. Oh yeah, she also lives in a divorced family. Yeah, this show tackles some pretty dark topics, which we will go over soon. After an argument with her mom, Tulip decides to run away from home to go to a game design camp called Oshkosh. Eventually she comes across a train with a sign that supposedly leads to Oshkosh, only for her to wake up in a field of snow a few seconds later. Now it's up to Tulip, along with the help of a personality-changing orb named 1-1 and a Corgi King, to find the train's conductor, get off the train, and go home. All while encountering the dangerous challenges of the train and solving the mystery behind the green number changing on her hand. It's a story where the character gets stuck in a random place and tries to get out. A fish out of water tale, kinda like any other modern cartoon ever created. But the difference between all of those and Infinity Train is that Infinity Train has an actual ending and a mystery waiting to be solved as we explore the train and learn more regarding the train itself, the number on Tulip's hand, and Tulip as a character. The story also gives the show a sense of world building thanks to the endless amount of cars on the Infinity Train, each one different than the last. Now then, on to the contents, shall we? Now that I gave you the plot, let's talk about the show itself. The show is just, it's a masterpiece. Infinity Train is one of those shows that is as relatable as it is flawless. Speaking on the animation side, I know it's churlish to criticize modern animation because usually with animation of this era, the only animation that I see is just characters flailing their arms back and forth expositing to a scene. But I will say that Infinity Train possesses a peculiar art style that kinda reminds me of the new She-Ra on Netflix. There are some differences from the pilot to the show. Tulip's redesign especially is one example where she looked like something out of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker or an ugly Bratz doll. For the animation, it's all good. and the backgrounds look pretty nice as well. Some of my favorite backgrounds from the show include the Crystal Car, this building in Wisconsin, and the Randall Market. But maybe I'm biased there because I like aquatic themes. But the animation isn't the big highlight of the show, it's the storytelling. Infinity Train takes on a dark tone throughout the story, reminds me a bit of Courage the Cowardly Dog. I like this because it allows the creators to take risks and tackle serious real-life issues. Speaking of issues and dark storytelling, Infinity Train takes on the one issue in childhood life no other kids show has ever dared to touch: divorce. It handles the topic of divorce in such a realistic and meaningful way that it's actually pretty sad. It talks about the idea of accepting the past for what it is. Divorce is a way of growth. It's what makes a person who they are, and they can do nothing to change it. I never experienced divorce growing up, but I'm pretty sure that hits close to home to some of you. The characters are also handled well. They're all well written and well rounded. You of course have the hero Tulip, the onion-loving game designing protagonist voiced by the legendary Ashley Johnson.
Sorry, Michaela, but Oshkosh calls. I'm the coding hero Wisconsin needs.
Tulip is the nerdy protagonist whose passion includes game design, and she, like Shrek, eats onions. Tulip throughout the story is curious and she documents her surroundings on the train. She learns to cope with her divorce to change as a person. Learning these lessons are the only way to get her number down to 0. See, even characters like her have layers of development. 1-1 is an orb made of 2 personalities combined into one entity. One personality is happy-go-lucky, cheerful, and optimistic, and the other is depressed, sarcastic, and tepid, like Sadness from Inside Out or an emo kid you see in high school.
Death to America.
1-1 makes up for a majority of the show's comedy, mostly due in part to his 2 personalities. After him is Atticus, the Corgi King of Corginia, aka the Corgi Car. He's the almost knightly character who remains royal loyal throughout the story. Yet just like any dog, he's prone to be triggered to action. To be honest, I never really cared about Atticus as the show continued. I always thought he was just there to get the audience going, aww, and just be a generic cartoon dog. But I've learned to appreciate Atticus as the show continued. After all, he's not just a good boy, he's a good man. The show also features characters such as the cat salesman, a devious trickster-like cat who is integral to the show's plot, as well as the entire series, Randall, or Randalls, a race of water beings with Australian accents that live in the ocean car, the Steward, a spider mannequin spaghetti bot chasing our hero that looks like something made by the Adeptus Mechanicus of Warhammer 40k, Mirror Tulip, a chrome-made tulip from a chrome car, more on her later, the Flex, the show's secondary antagonist, and the cops of the Chrome world, and the main antagonist, this thing. I should also make mention that outside the train are these cockroach dogs that suck the souls out of its prey and leaves them a wrinkly husk. Overall, every major character in Infinity Train is well rounded and they are brought to life by amazing voice acting. The voice acting in Infinity Train is realistic and grounded, which gives the show a sense of depth and realism. Like I mentioned earlier, Tulip is voiced by Ashley Johnson, most recognizable for her role as Ellie from The Last of Us, and if you played The Last of Us, then that's all you'll hear out of Tulip. She's basically Ellie from The Last of Us, but with an interest in game development and a knack for eating onions.
Interesting bit of Tulip trivia. I competed in North Middle Branch Area Middle School's Scientific Odyssey trials. My team even took home the award for Best Hypothetically Proven Hypothesis.
Funnily enough, the voice was the intentional direction according to what I learned from watching 107 Facts About Cartoons. Anyway, Johnson does an incredibly good job with Tulip, giving her good depth and character and overall being a really good voice. 1-1 is voiced by 2 people, Owen Dennis himself, and Jeremy Crutchley, a British actor with roles in such shows as Black Sails and Hannibal. Both of them do a really solid job.
I'm looking for my mother. I don't know what she looks like, though. She might be large.
Or small, like a nurturing bagel. Are you looking for your bagel mother, too?
Atticus is voiced by the one and only Ernie Hudson, most famous for his role as Winston Zedmore in Ghostbusters. He comes with a voice that's appropriately royal but without sounding, British.
We're 400 strong and 399 cute. Just don't tell that to ugly Irwin.
So they got a well-talented cast of celebrities for the show, which is a really impressive feat for a kid's show, even though I never heard of the majority involved. So overall, Infinity Train has all the ingredients for a good kid's show down to a T, and a good cartoon in general. I would even say the show deserves an Emmy. Its characters are well-rounded, the backgrounds look beautiful, and the voice acting is Oscar-worthy. This is your chance to get off. because we head into climax territory. The final episode, or one of the final episodes, of Infinity Train sees Tulip and Co. enter a train car reminiscent of a McDonald's play place. They have fun in the ball pit and do a simple challenge given to them by a walking bunny plush, which rewards them with one of those jiggly wiggly liquid toys you see at a local pharmacy. Sounds like a good final episode, right? That is, until the end when the steward shows up and destroys the play place. That's where we meet the real antagonist, Red-Eye Robotron, or as I would like to call him, Robodoctor. As Tulip struggles against Robodoctor, Atticus comes to save her, and this is where the biggest twist comes in.
Why should I listen to you?
Because I am the conductor.
I mean, wasn't the name obvious? Robodoctor? Anyway, Robodoctor uses a mutation gun to turn Atticus into one of those soul-sucking cockroach dogs, leading to Tulip trapping him in a tube and crying. A very sad moment that nearly made me cry. After that train wreck, pun possibly intended, Tulip does one last task from the cat salesman, and this leads to a memory tape. Memory tapes play a vital role in the show, with one tape dedicated to Tulip in a previous episode. Memory tapes are essentially a way to peer into a person's past, and they can often be a trap. This time, the memory tape is dedicated to someone named Amelia, who's revealed to be...
Amelia.
The conductor?
Actually, it's Amelia who's the conductor of the train, and we also discover how she created the mutation gun, by stealing one of the train's cannons. Amelia has been creating cars on this train as a memory of her past, one that she has to leave behind. This ends up changing the number on Tulip's hand all the way down to 0, opening the way back home. But she has one more task to do.
Hello there.
The final battle has arrived between Tulip and Amelia the Robodoctor. Thanks to the help of the cat salesman, Tulip is able to reach the engine, which is the beginning of the train by the way, to find another mutation gun to save Atticus. Tulip makes an offer to Amelia, trading her memories for Atticus' safety, only for the video itself to leave her stunned. Just as Tulip is cornered by the steward, she pulls down a yellow tube and unleashes the cockroach dog Atticus, leaving Amelia to handle Tulip herself, revealing that she had been building these cars as a memory of her past. She then pulls a pipe from the ground and Tulip pulls out her donut holder.
You keep a pipe in your backpack.
It's a donut holder!
As Tulip and Amelia duke it out, Amelia tries to talk with Tulip into making a car where her parents weren't divorced, until Tulip hits her on the head with her donut holder, revealing inside the old body of Amelia. After a few minutes of fighting, and after a few failed shooting attempts, Tulip manages to change Atticus back into his old form, and it's revealed during this fight that 1-1 is the conductor. For real this time, no more twists. With 1-1 back in his position, he restores the steward and also restores the train. Atticus also pops out of his cockroach husk, all nice and restored. The unfinished train is then distributed, causing Tulip and Amelia to jump down, and Amelia destroying her suit in the process. Tulip comes to say hello to Atticus, and she gives him his crown back, and she beholds in 1-1 being the conductor. After all that, Tulip sits down with Amelia and teaches her to adapt to the changes in her life. This also reveals that Amelia has been on the train for a long time. So much so that her numbers went up to her arm and neck. After her talk with Amelia, Tulip finally says goodbye to her friends and leaves the train. But before she goes, she gives hope to Amelia that she will leave the train herself. And just like that, she leaves the train. Ending with a cut of 7 months later where Tulip has cut her hair and is still eating onions, before finally going to Oshkosh with her dad. The end. Infinity Train, even looking back at it now about a year later, is what I would consider a perfect return to television. With its great world building, charming characters, beautiful backgrounds, incredible voice acting, and perfect storytelling make any other relatable show that's come up before this look like Sesame Street, which also tackled the topic of divorce before this, but Infinity Train presents the topic in such a realistic way that I'm pretty sure, like I said, hits close to home for some of you. It will be announced that Infinity Train will get another season under the title of Book 2. This season would see the inclusion of a new character named Jessie, a deer, and the return of Mirror Tulip from Season 1. And she sports a punky outfit with a bald head that will probably put Homer Simpson or Lex Luthor to shame. Infinity Train works as both the perfect source of entertainment and the perfect way to give young viewers a look at life's hardest lessons. It probably tackles other issues that I haven't mentioned, but it is often focused on the topic of divorce and going through change as a person. Lessons that are pretty important for young children to learn, making Infinity Train Season 1 the best package. For my final rating of Season 1, I will give it an onion out of tulip, or in other words, a 9 out of 10 would watch again. This is where I get off. On to the next book. Chapter 2. Mirror, Mirror Through the Fall. Season 2 would be announced in November of 2019 under the title of Infinity Train Book 2. As stated previously, this show would introduce new characters and familiar faces returning. So now I come to the question, is Season 2 better than Season 1? Let's find out as we go deeper into Infinity Train Book 2. The first episode of Infinity Train Book 2 is split into two segments. The first of these segments continues the story where Mirror Tulip left off after the episode The Mirror Car. We see her in a forge full of bunnies, and this also explains how she got her new look, transitioning from a lookalike of Tulip with short hair to a punky street girl with a bald head that would probably put either Lex Luthor or Homer Simpson to shame. Come the title card and a montage of her exploring never-before-seen train cars, and we also learn that she is still on the run from the Flex and has developed a tactic of spraying mirrors black to prevent them from following her. After a chase to a snail market, Mirror Tulip, also known as MT, hides in an autumn car, and this is where she meets a deer. But not just any deer, this deer has superpowers! So she hides behind the deer and it causes it to turn invisible, thus saving her from the Flex, and it seems as if MT has made a new friend. They both hang out and about a day later, the deer goes missing. This is where we meet our new protagonist, Jesse, a swimmer boy from Arizona. We see him put sunglasses on the deer which MT destroys, and he gives the deer a nickname, Alan Dracula. When Alan falls to the floor, very stiff like wood by the way, Jesse and MT have to save him. It's also discovered that the forest itself stands on an arguing family tree of the Gillicuddies and the Trundleshanks. After going through the tree, they find Alan Dracula, and together, it's up to MT to help Jesse get his number down and get him off the train, all while running away from the Flex and exploring the never-before-seen train cars. The story is pretty much the same as Book 1 with elements of a chase story, and just like the first book, Book 2 expands more on the world of Infinity Train thanks to the brand new cars introduced. And that's really all I could say about the story. Let's talk about the contents. While I once again know it's churlish to criticize modern animation, the animation is still as good as it can be. There's one well-animated scene that I will go over later that looks like it was animated by the guys who animate the intro to OKKO. I will say that Season 2 brings over some really great backgrounds once again. My favorite backgrounds in the season this time include the fashion car, just look at those hills, the finished map car, the unfinished map car, the ectoplasm streams, and the number station which looks like something out of Tron. Anyway, speaking over storytelling, just like the show Doctor Who, Infinity Train Book 2 starts out with a brand new protagonist, Jessie. This is actually a pretty cool concept and it keeps the show fresh while also tying in past seasons together. Book 2 is also a lot more comedic than the first, which I see as a major improvement, though the show still carries the darkness from Season 1, especially towards the end. Book 2 also continues the tradition of Book 1 of teaching viewers lessons through its storytelling. Where the lessons of Book 1 were divorce and changing as a person, Book 2's lessons are that by learning through their past, a person can change, and no matter who you are or what you are a person and you can live a life of your own without limitations. Or maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. Jessie this time serves as the comic relief character, and speaking of comic relief, a lot of the side characters have really great lines and often steal the show from the main trio, like this toad that doesn't want to get kicked, even though you have to open the door, or the Cloud, voiced by Al from Toy Story 2, or Perry the Parasite, who I think is the best character in Infinity Train Book 2. He's hilarious. Other than the side characters, the majority of the season is spent with Jessie, MT, Alan Dracula, and the Fleck agents Mace and Steve. Jessie is a swimmer boy from Arizona with a little brother named Nate, who, as I mentioned, serves as the comic relief character thanks to his wit and adventurous sense of humor. But he becomes more serious as later episodes go on. MT this time serves as the mentor to Jessie and the rebel character on the run from the Flecks. Book 2 is mostly focused on her, and she goes through an identity crisis as she becomes her own person and breaks her way through the barrier of mirror law. Alan Dracula serves as this season's animal companion, and he comes with reality-bending powers such as changing size, shooting lasers, and transforming into various things. And he is obsessed with grass. To me, Alan seems to drive the mystery factor into Infinity Train thanks to his mysterious powers, which are never explained where he got them from. Speaking of mysteries, Infinity Train Book 2 answers a few questions viewers may have had over Season 1, such as, how do passengers get sent to the train? How do they get their numbers? Where do the memory tapes come from? And are there more passengers on the train? All of these questions will be answered in the show, but the first three I mentioned are answered towards the end. Moving on from mysteries, let's go on to mirrors with the new antagonists, the Fleck agents Mace and Steve from Season 1. Steve steals the show from Mace because he's the agent that is sympathetic towards his teammate and his job. He's also the rookie kind of character and seems to know his way around deception in one scene. Overall, a lot of these characters are well written once again, and the voice acting is as good as ever. Ashley Johnson of course steals the show as MT, but you also have Robbie Damon who does a good job with Jessie.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe we should go with something everyone would be into. What's everyone's favorite name? Oh, Alan! It's Alan. Wait. That's it! Alan Dracula! Let's try it out. Hello, have you met my dear Alan Dracula? Oh yeah, sounds like something I'd say. Good idea, Chrome Girl.
Book 2 also continues its trend of featuring celebrities with Bradley Whitford and Ben Mendelsohn, who both do good jobs as the Fleck agents Mace and Steve. Bradley Whitford is famous for playing characters like Josh Lyman from West Wing and Dean Armitage from Get Out, while Mendelsohn is well known for such roles as John Daggett from The Dark Knight Rises, Neville Love from Startup, Orson Krennic from Star Wars Rogue One, and Talos from Captain Marvel. Whitford gives a sympathetic performance with Steve, but Mendelsohn especially steals the show as Mace and gives a haunting performance with his character, especially towards the end.
Humiliating. She's gone. Again.
Don't worry, Mace. We'll get her.
I know that. Slivers are weak. Think they're above the law. She made her choice. But they all get tired and they let their guard down. Think they're safe. They're never safe.
Creator Owen Dennis proves his vocal talents once again with the Toad, who comes with an Elvis Presley sounding voice which sounds so smooth.
Y'all get 2 points each. Now go take a gander at the prize booth in the center of the carnival.
Thanks, Toad.
Well, please call me Terrence.
Wait, your name was Terrence this whole time?
Nope.
Okay.
I should give credit to Perry the Parasite, voiced by Bill Corbett, famous for his role as the robot Crow T-Robot on Mystery Science Theater 3000. To me, he truly steals the show of the season in terms of comedy because this character is by far the funniest character in the series, not gonna lie.
Oh sure, old Antlerhead loves this new setup. We're like brain roommates. Well, you know, people change. Hey, check out this new door. Look, Ma, no baby hands.
So overall, Infinity Train Book 2 is somewhat of a comedic step up for the series, continuing the good backgrounds, great storytelling, and amazing talent-filled voice acting while also improving the show's aspects in terms of comedy. Dare I say it's so far the funniest season of the show. Once again, I ask you to leave, because we head to our climax stop. One of the last episodes of Book 2 sees Jessie and Co. visit a fair inside a giant cat statue. This gathers all the previous inhabitants of the Infinity Train, including the cat, who owns the fair. In order to leave, they must rack up 1,000 points to win the exit. But they are not alone, for a golden-faced, hooded figure is on their tail. What follows is a montage of our main trio winning various carnival games and racking up points, and keeping Alan Dracula from a claw machine. Once they do get 1,000 points, Alan Dracula goes missing and ends up in said claw machine. They win him back, but when they do, the hooded figure ends up beating them. She opens the door and unleashes an army of rabid kids, and she reveals herself to be a passenger named Grace, leader of a rebellious group of passengers called the Apex. Cool name, huh? I want to mention that Grace was teased in the finale of Infinity Train Season 1. It's actually a really cool use of foreshadowing. Anyway, Grace decides to take the trio in, and it's revealed that she's been on the train for quite a while. She and the Apex believe that 1-1 is lying about getting off the train, and so they believe the numbers on their hands are the real deal. She believes it's her responsibility to lead fellow passengers to a new generation on the train. She then takes the trio to the Apex hideout, an abandoned mall car, and we are introduced to her second in command, a shaggy lookalike named Simon. Grace decides to take Jesse out for a spin and introduces him to their untested grappling chests, leaving MT and Alan to the Apex. Out and about, Jesse discovers that the Apex are not exactly what they seem, seeing as they do bad for what they claim is good, and we discover that they call the train denizens nulls, which means nothing, thus claiming them not to be real. Meanwhile, back at Apex HQ, the Apex treat MT and Alan Dracula very poorly, using her as a mirror and attempting to ride Alan Dracula. After seeing enough, MT goes to speak to Simon, and Simon tells her to buzz off as if she's not a person. When Jesse returns, he sees MT and Alan in peril, but luckily he intervenes. Grace, having just about enough, unleashes the flex upon our heroes through her small mirror, and they chase off. Miraculously, during said chase, Jesse's number manages to go down to 0, opening the way back home. Jesse and MT attempt to leave, but MT cannot pass through the exit, and then it disappears, leaving her to the flex. The next episode sees MT mourn the loss of the door and continue the run from the flex, leading her to stealing a grappling chest. Eventually, after a few minutes of running, the Agent Mace successfully manages to handcuff her, and then he is wheeled in half, and they end up in the wasteland. MT attempts to break out of her cuff, but to no avail. During this very episode, Mace tries to get into her mind, convincing her she is merely a reflection and will never leave the train. The rest of the episode sees MT, Mace, and Alan Dracula wandering the wasteland and have long-drawn arguments. When they go too far, the train pulls them back and they can't go forward. Then the cockroach dogs from Season 1 rise from the ground and chase MT and co, prompting Alan to transform into a giant antler ball. The rest is of Mace asking hypothetical questions to MT should she leave the train. Like, would she get a job? Live a life? Live the parallel life of her prime? This causes MT to fight back, and she comes up with the idea to get a number of her own. Using her grappling chest, she goes back to the train to get a number, but before she does, she finishes off Mace in what is possibly the most gruesome, most horrifying thing I've ever witnessed in a kid's show. I'm just gonna let the footage speak for itself. What the hell did I just witness? I was speechless when I first saw this. This looks like a death out of a Final Destination film, not a creepy kooky kid show. This is one of the reasons I love Infinity Train. It isn't afraid to take risks and show something some other network would probably never get away with. It's honestly incredible that Cartoon Network was okay with this. This! So after all that struggle, the episode that ends with MT and Alan Dracula waiting for a train pod. The next episode sees MT and Alan Dracula heading to the source of the passenger numbers on people's hands. To do this, they hijack a train pod which resembles the head of Amelia's Roboductor suit from Season 1. They ride the pod to the source, all while drooling over 1-1's documentaries about the train. After a while, they make it to a car which is the source of the passenger numbers. This place also reveals how the memory tapes are created, as they are farmed from the brains of passengers in... I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna call it memory tape ectoplasm. After looking through a young girl's memories, MT falls into the ectoplasm, and this leads her to the ectoplasm streams, which leads her to the place where they put the numbers on people's hands. In high hopes, she puts her hand in front of the machine, but she doesn't get a number. In a fit of rage, she cries and destroys the ostrich caretakers that don't seem to notice her, leading to the steward from Season 1 emerging to stop her. but it's revealed to be 1-1 piloting the suit in a fake out. MT begs 1-1 to give her a number, but 1-1 keeps telling her no because she is a denizen and so she can't get a number or leave the train. Desperate and in need of escape, they discover that Jesse is on the train at number 0, but he is in process. Jesse shows up in the ectoplasm and 1-1 receives a new memory tape from Jesse. They watch the tape and they discover that not only did MT change throughout Jesse's journey, but also that he went back to get MT. MT awakens Jesse and welcomes him back. 1-1 gives Jesse a new number, but not a numerical number, a number that changes into different mathematical numbers and letters. From all the stress, 1-1 argues with himself to find a way to get MT off the train. As the car collapses, it's revealed that 1-1 has been stuck in a loop and can't process a denizen getting off the train. Then the last mirror cop shows up, Steve, ready to finish the job and kill MT. As they duke it out, MT has an idea to get a number on her hand. Using her reflective body, she projects Jesse's number onto her hand and a door opens for both of them. Jesse gets off, but MT is stopped as Steve pulls her back. Then, in the best animated scene in the show so far, MT throws grass at Alan Dracula, which causes him to shoot lasers at Steve, and he explodes into mirror chunks. He then flies away as 1-1 says,
I really broke the mold with you, Alan Dracula.
I'm pretty sure the guys that animated the intro to OKKO made this scene. So after all that struggle, MT has finally made it off the train and is introduced to Jesse's little brother. Nate beholds in the presence of MT, and this is where MT finally gives herself an actual name, Lake. And so, she lives happily ever after with Jesse. The end. Overall, I think Infinity Train Book 2 is probably the darkest and least darkest so far. Least darkest in that it's a lot more comedic and funnier than Season 1, and darkest in that we literally see a character get killed by the end. This season also begs more questions more than it answered, such as, is there a judge in the mirror world? I mean, if the Flex operate a justice system, then surely they must have a judge, or maybe a council? I'm not sure. Is there such a thing as a rebel Fleck? Are there more reflections of passengers living throughout the train? And most importantly, what does lie beyond the wasteland? Gods? Aliens? Passengers? The way back home? Cockroach men? All these questions I do hope get answered as the show continues, but overall, Infinity Train Book 2 is somewhat of an improvement over Season 1. With its nice animation, still stellar voice acting, still great storytelling, and most importantly, amped up comedy, Infinity Train Book 2 is in my eyes a lot better than Book 1. This season gets a mirrored onion out of Tulip. Or in other words, a 9.1 out of 10, definitely would watch again. Chapter 3. Overall Consensus. Looking at the entire series a year later, I can say that the entire show holds up well looking at it a year later. If you're looking for a cartoon with dark yet incredible storytelling, some good backgrounds, and stellar voice acting, well, I'd say this is worth a watch. For the future of the series, there is a third season in development called Book 3, and is set to premiere on HBO Max less than a day after this video goes live. This season will center on the Apex leaders Grace and Simon, as well as two new characters, a girl named Hazel and her gorilla friend Tula. Will I cover Book 3 once it releases? Maybe. But overall as a show, my point is that having watched it recently, Infinity Train still holds up as an enjoyment of a show years later. Once again, if you're looking for a cartoon with dark and incredible storytelling, some good backgrounds, and incredible voice acting, then this is the show for you. This is where I get off. Have a good night.